Alright folks, everything new under the sun. We're going to talk about the lunar eclipse. So the lunar eclipse happened on the 20th, Sunday night, and many thought it was something related to the U.S., and I don't think so. I'm more on the side of the fact, what I believe is the fact, that it's more related to Israel. And even because, even as if it wasn't over Israel, it's still related to Israel, and there's some interesting points that I want to make you aware of. So what is the lunar eclipse? First of all, is it a blessing? And who is it for? Well, there are this article is from Shabbat.org. There are special blessings that we make whenever we witness particular wondrous natural phenomena. The article says eclipses, however, are not listed among the wonders for which we make a blessing. The Talmud, and this is where it's stated. This isn't stated in the Bible, but it says the Talmud tells us that a solar eclipse is a bad omen for the rest of for the entire world, i.e., the Gentile nations. That would include the United States. So a solar eclipse is a bad omen for all the other nations of the world, and potentially you could connect it to whichever country it shows under, whomever can see it. Maybe it's a bad omen for them. Maybe you could stretch that and use that. Generally, though, the Talmud states. We're going to take a look at what the Talmud is versus the Tanakh, the Torah, etc. And it says, which runs according to the solar calendar. So the entire world runs on the solar calendar. Of course, in terms of Israel, their calendar is based off the lunar calendar and the lunar cycles. It says, a lunar eclipse is considered a bad sign or a bad omen for the Jewish nation, which calculate the duration of months according to the cycles of the moon. So their calendar is based off the moon and its cycles. And so that's why I've often said that, generally it's believed that a lunar eclipse is a bad omen for the Jewish people, Israel as a whole. Solar eclipses is bad for the rest of the nations, and I would suggest when that happens, it's a bad omen for the United States, if the solar eclipse happens over the United States. Now this is all taken with a grain of salt. This is all kind of what the religious traditions, etc. So briefly, what are the differences between the Talmud and the Torah? So the Torah is different, obviously. It says non-Jewish people often confuse two important words in Jewish history, the Talmud and the Torah. So you may not have heard this before, so listen up, and this is, these are words you're going to hear. They sound vaguely similar, it says, and may sound like they stem from the same concept, when in fact they are two different things. The Talmud is the most vital manuscript of conventional Judaism religion. Note that it's religion. What is religion? Religion is a man-made thing, and it's a man's attempt to get to God effectively. It is literally the Hebrew word for learning, and is sometimes referred to as the 6 orders of the Mishnah. The Talmud contains a history of the Jewish religion, as well as their laws and quote-unquote beliefs. It is a basic tool for learning ethics behind customs of religion. What is the Torah? Well, the Torah, on the other hand, is a word for instruction. The Torah is the most widely known as 5 books of Moses. So this is where it gets into the Bible. The Torah is the Bible. Another word for the Torah is the Pentateuch, which is widely used in some Jewish nations. Like the Talmud, the Torah is also a very religious manuscript. They both contain religious writings important to the Jewish community. The Torah is basically the Hebrew Bible. It contains 613 commandments and is the whole context of Jewish laws and traditions. So remember, the moons being signs for Israel and solar eclipses being signs for the whole world are not necessarily spoken of in the Bible, although there are some solar eclipses and lunar blood moons in the Bible, and those are spoken of in Revelation. That's something for a later thing. And those are signs for all the nations, and those happen at the same time as the sun and the moon go dark, and the moon goes and the sun goes as black as sackcloth. And that happens at the same time as if a warning for the whole world, and I think it is. But generally, the tradition that lunar eclipses are a bad omen for Israel is more spoken of in the Talmud a manuscript and more related to Judaism historically as a religion, and not the inspired word of God. And so that's where that comes from. But here we go. Here is an article from jpost.com, and here's a Jewish rabbi. What does he say about the lunar eclipse that just happened? And it's not. I would say the lunar eclipse, because traditionally it's a bad omen. I would say it's more easily connected to the war that just hugely flared up in Israel on the 20th, basically. And so this is something. Let's take a look at this article here. The lunar eclipse is a sign Jews must leave diaspora. So what he's saying is that this happens to be a sign for the Jews in the U.S. because it was a sign over the U.S. Basically to move back. Just one second. All right, I'm back. So I'll read this briefly here. Let's see. Where was I? Author of popular Jewish blog Rabbi Fish suggests upcoming supermoon is a warning sign to the Jews. He also suggests both U.S. Presidents Barack Obama and Trump may be the messiahs. Now that's way out there. I don't believe that at all. I think what's more interesting, rather, is his understanding of, that it's a sign kind of for Jews to get back. I would suggest that even more. It seems to me even more related to, in terms of historical evidence, what's happened during past lunar eclipses, etc., and blood moons. I think there's more connection, more historical parallels to wars in Israel as it relates to these things. Nonetheless, let's see what he says here. The upcoming January 20th super blood moon marks the Jewish holiday Tu B'Shvat, as well as 2 years of the presidency of Trump. And there's lots of people making numerical calculations and similarities and coming up with some significance to the Trump presidency and the timing of all this. But I don't know if I would go there, but I think it's much easier to connect the lunar eclipses to what's going on in Israel. Rabbi Yejutiel Fish, author of the Hebrew Torah blog Sod HaShemal, suggests that the moon eclipse is not a mere astronomical incident, but a sign from God, at least for American Jews, as the eclipse will not be visible in Israel. So it does make sense to me. If you can see it, maybe it's a sign for you. And God does use the sun, moon, and stars for signs or for appointed times, moedim. If you follow Scotty Clark, he's spoken a lot about that. So certainly I think they're a sign for somebody. I think at a minimum it's God's greatness and power showing something in the sun, moon, and stars that we need to be aware of and need to say, what's God trying to tell us as it relates to this? So let's go on. It says, it's clearly telling Jews that they need to come to Israel. So the whole Aliyah thing. And there is a large number of Jews in the U.S. still. And so is this basically their sign to come back and move back to Israel? For the Jews who are still in the exile, the only way they can avoid tragedy is by coming to Israel, it says. On his blog, Rabbi suggests that Trump is the Messiah, and I don't believe that at all, for the nation of Edom. He's also been compared to King Cyrus, obviously. Writing that perhaps both Christian and Muslim nations have a Messiah, that the rabbi goes on to say that actions of Obama led to a massive change in the Arab world, causing the kings of Arabia to ask for aid against the Persians, it says. All right, sorry I'm back. I'm trying to get some actual time to go through this. So I just want to give some background on the lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, and the significance and my thoughts on it generally. And yes, I still do believe that the lunar eclipse is more, if anything, I think it's still a significant sign for Israel or the Jewish people, and that's what their history and tradition speaks to. That's what the Talmud speaks to and suggests. And I think if you look at historical evidence, when these things do happen, some huge things flare up, seemingly on the same exact day as these things are occurring. The flare up on Sunday was like the largest in months and months, and not only the largest, but it was not a proxy war. It was open confrontation with Iran, as Iran actually shot a missile in, and this is pretty much unprecedented as far as I'm aware, as it relates to Iran openly, not just using its proxy terrorist groups, but actually firing back themselves. And now they're coming out with articles saying, you know what, we are ready. Our army is ready to wipe Israel off the map and to stop them from being a nation, basically push them into the sea, as it were. So some background. I hope you learned something and learned about some differences between the Talmud and the Torah. And so I would say take what you hear from others with a grain of salt. Take what you hear from me with a grain of salt. Go search this stuff out. You can find this stuff on Google. But understanding which particular religious books say what about these things is key. And the Bible does make reference to this, but it makes reference specifically to the big eclipses and when the sun and the moon go dark. That specific reference is specifically for the last days, and I think that's because it's a sign for the whole world and not just a particular nation, etc. So something to think about, and it's a very interesting connection there between the two. Let me know what you guys think, and as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.